Just a few weeks ago, the Knicks looked like a team with a ceiling. Talented, tough, and gritty, but deeply flawed. Every time the offense bogged down in the half-court, every time the shooting dried up, one glaring issue kept surfacing. Teams weren't guarding Josh Hart at all, and it was killing their spacing, killing their rhythm, and killing their chances to break into the elite tier. Opponents were daring him to shoot, clogging the paint, and forcing the Knicks into inefficient, stagnant possessions. But now, everything's changed, because the Knicks have officially solved their biggest problem. And the answer had nothing to do with Hart suddenly becoming a knockdown shooter. Instead, it came from a strategic adjustment that unlocked their offense in a way we haven't seen in years. Let's rewind for a second. The problem wasn't new. Opposing defenses figured out months ago that if they sagged off Josh Hart and packed the paint, they could neutralize the Knicks' biggest strength, Jalen Brunson's ability to collapse the defense. Without shooters around him, Brunson was forced to dribble into traffic, take tough contested shots, or give up the ball early. And with Hart in the corner or parked on the perimeter, defenders had a free pass to play zone without actually being in a zone. Game after game, you saw bigs like Horford or Porzingis standing in the paint, daring Hart to pull the trigger from deep while keeping their eyes locked on the ball. It was simple, it was effective, and it was suffocating. The Knicks tried different things. They moved Hart to the dunker spot. They used him as a cutter. They even ran occasional pick and roll with him as the ball handler. But none of it really worked, because the defense never respected him as a scoring threat. And no matter where he stood, he wasn't drawing attention. The floor stayed cramped, the offense stayed clunky, and the Knicks stayed predictable. That all changed in Game 4. Instead of trying to force Hart into a role he wasn't built for, New York leaned into what he does best and redesigned their offense around it. They didn't ask him to stand still and knock down threes. They turned him into a weapon without the ball. Early in the game, the Knicks used off-ball screens to empty a side of the floor, then ran Brunson and Hart in two-man actions. The goal? Get Hart moving either as a screener, a decoy, or a connector while giving Brunson more space to operate. And immediately, it started to work. The Celtics were no longer able to help as aggressively. The spacing opened up, and Brunson began picking apart mismatches one possession at a time. By stationing Hart in the corner and using him to set flare screens, clear sides, or drag defenders out of position, the Knicks created layers of movement that forced Boston to make decisions. No more standing around, no more predictable ISOs. Instead, it was calculated chaos. Hart flying around, Brunson probing, and New York shooters suddenly getting clean looks from three. Even when Hart wasn't touching the ball, he was dictating the geometry of the floor. And that's the key. They stopped using Hart as a shooter and started using him as a manipulator. Someone who bends the defense, not with his scoring, but with his movement. They used him to screen for shooters like OG and Mail, to set double screens with Mitch, to crash the glass and collapse weak side help. And when Boston finally adjusted, when they brought more pressure to Hart's movement, that's when Brunson started cooking. Because now, the paint was open. Now, the pull-up was there. And now, every little wrinkle in the playbook started to create real damage. You could see the shift in rhythm. The Knicks were attacking earlier in the shot clock. They weren't holding the ball. waiting for something to develop. They were triggering action right away, using Hart to distort the defense, then flowing straight into secondary actions. For the first time in the series, Boston looked slow, confused, reactive, and Brunson? He looked in complete control. But here's what really makes this change so brilliant. It's sustainable. Hart doesn't have to shoot well for this to work. He doesn't even need to score. He just needs to be active, committed, and in sync with the offense. And the Knicks have built a system around that exact idea, one where a non-shooter can be the fulcrum of motion, not a liability. One where Hart's basketball IQ becomes a weapon, not a weakness. That's not a temporary fix. That's a structural change, a permanent solution to a problem that was threatening to derail their season. And maybe most importantly, it's made the Knicks unpredictable again. Instead of relying on Brunson to bail them out every time, they've diversified their attack. Whether it's McBride popping for a catch-and-shoot three, OG cutting back door, or Mail coming off a pin down, everything starts with movement. And all of that movement starts with Hart. This isn't just about Game 4. This is about solving the one thing that could have cost them everything. Because now, every lineup works. Every spacing issue has a counter. And every defender who tries to help off Hart has to think twice.